Hi, I'm Gibaud, Gibaud.com, and today I'm going to speak why I think that real photographers should not look down on smartphone. Let's start. Well, there are people when they hear the word smartphone along with photography or videography, they start itching, they get fever and things like this. What I'm going to ask you is if you are one of them, please watch the video, listen what I'm going to tell. I don't ask you to change your mind, but maybe open a bit your mind about smartphone photography, and I'm going to compare things and tell you a few ideas. So I hope you will like my point of view, and maybe you will share some ideas with me also. So let's start. First of all, I think it's time to stop using the word smartphone. We should speak about smart device. Why? I'm going to tell you why. In a smartphone you can find agenda with your contacts, calculator, even scientific calculator, GPS and maps, MP3 to listen to music, video player to watch videos, flashlight, computer. Really, you can actually use your Microsoft Office or similar, or the Word, Excel. You can edit photography, edit video. You can also send messages, whether short messages or WhatsApp or similar. Radio, you can listen to the radio. You have a payment system. In the latest smartphone, you can actually pay without getting your credit card out. You can do video conference. You can record sound. It's a sound recorder also. You also have a calendar. You can actually plan your time and your agenda, where you have to go, have meeting, business meeting, personal meeting, whatever. It's also an alarm clock to wake up in the morning. You can also organize pictures and videos and have albums and look at them. You can read books. It's an electronic book reader. You have also a compass in there. You can actually know where you are, see where's north, south, all this. You can actually measure. You take a picture of something and it tells you the size in meter or inches or whatever. It's like a post-it. It can record you when you have a meeting or what it tells you. It's also about health. It can tell you how your heart is going, how many you've been walking, how many pace you've made, all this. It calculates. It gives access to the internet. It also has a camera that you can use for video and photography and many things more. And one thing is really tiny thing it does. You can actually place a phone call. So the part that has to do with telephone is so small that I think it should not be called a smartphone, but it should be called a smart device, because telephony is really a really small part of a telephone. It was a time where the whole telephone was just for placing call. There was not even an agenda. But nowadays, it's just such a little part that many people have never used their telephone to place a call. They actually use all the rest, and they message or record a voice message or whatever, but they never call anyone. So many people, they look down on smartphone for photography, telling always the same thing. Yeah, but don't forget, this is a telephone. This is just a smartphone. It's not a camera, it's a telephone. No, forget about that. This is a multi-feature device. And one of them is a camera, and another very small part is to place a call. Why people think like this? Well, basically because when they get the reflex camera or the DSLR or they get mirrorless, whatever, they go make a picture. They look at the picture, and there's a guy next to them with a smartphone, makes a picture, and the picture on his smartphone looks better. So they get upset. They think, yeah, what's that? I mean, this guy with a smartphone making a picture that looks better than mine, it's not because of him, it's because of the smartphone. Well, I've got bad news for you. I say you, but I speak about people in general, but maybe it's not your case, but maybe it is, but whatever. I always tell from me to you and you to me, okay? So basically what happens is that people don't realize that no smartphone make good picture, the same as no camera make good picture. You can have a good image quality, nice colors, nice sharpness, whatever, but what is making the picture? The picture is made by the person who's using the tool. So really, when you look at that, if his picture is better, it's because he's a better photographer. That's it. He frames better, his idea was better, he was more creative, and the result is better. I don't speak about filters and things like this, I speak just about the picture. Image quality is something else. I speak about the picture. If the picture is better, it's because it's better than you are. So you cannot say, well, his picture is good because he's used as a smartphone and the smartphone does everything. That's a lie. The smartphone is not doing everything. And I think that real photographer, when I say real photographer, many people get upset, but I want to say real photographer, not because he's famous, good, or whatever. I speak in the way of thinking. A real photographer knows perfectly that a camera can be of any type. It can be a pinhole, it can be a large format, can be a medium format, can be a full frame, it can be Polaroid, it can be digital, it can be analog, can be many forms. It's just a tool, and you use the tool you think is better to get the result you want. And among these tools, it can be a smartphone. So about 15 or 20 years ago, we had a big war between analog photography and digital photography. And analog people were telling that, yeah, but digital photography is not photography. And we had that for many years. And they were like looking down on digital photography. But actually, the most radical people at that time ended up buying a digital camera and ended up being even more radical when using digital camera. Then they look down on anything new. Why? Because many of these people, what they want is to be really special, and I am the photographer. But now you have millions of photographers, so they don't have this hero style in this local place, and people say he's the photographer. They all are photographers, and the problem is that to be the photographer, you need to be a good, very good photographer. It's very hard to stand out, a lot harder than before. And so very often when they speak about, when they look down on smartphone, they say, yeah, but look at this guy. He's just getting there on the street and get his phone and he makes a picture. What is that? It's not a way of making picture. You don't work like this. Oh no, you don't work like this. Well, if you look at street photography and you get an M Leica camera with a lens and you're going to street photography, you place the lens probably on f8 and you put the speed on 1/25 of a second, and then you calculate hyperfocal, that you know that everyone would pass by at about 2 or 3 meters will be in focus. So what you're going to do is wait, lift your camera, frame, trigger, and you got your picture. What's the difference with the camera on your smartphone? None. It's exactly the same way of working, exactly the same way of working. So when it was street photography with a film camera, that was photography, and someone does the same thing with a smartphone, it's not photography anymore. Come on, let's be serious. And then they tell you, yes, but now with a smartphone everything is electronic, they calculate everything. Yes, I'm sure you're happy about the new autofocus with eye detect on Sony cameras and on Fujifilm cameras. Yes? Are you actually following with your eyes like this yourself? And this connect with the eye of the other guy on the other side? No. Obviously, this is done by electronic. It's also a chip and software that calculates and follows the guy and his eye or his face, okay? And then they're criticizing, yeah, but with smartphone, they do like HDR to have better dynamic range, and so it looks nice. I don't speak about the typical tone mapping with funny colors or this. I speak really HDR, where you see things better in the shade and highlights. And they criticize that. But when you listen to them speaking about camera gear, they say, yo, but this camera has a higher dynamic range. You have 13, 14, maybe 15 one day. I said, that's great. Oh yeah, you get it. I got it. Yeah. And when they sit on a smartphone, it's no good. But if it was on their camera, yes, it is good. So aren't we all thinking of getting the best dynamic range as possible so it matches what our eyes are seeing? Obviously yes. So why do you look down on smartphone if it gets a good dynamic range? That's nonsense. And then they tell you, yeah, but noise reduction. If you look at a smartphone, the sensor is so small that you get a lot of noise, and then have to denoise it with software and hardware, whatever, and that's not photography anymore. And what do you think your camera is doing? You think there's a small drop in your camera that is actually cleaning each picture to remove the noise? Obviously this is made by electronic and software, also exactly the same thing. And then they tell you, yeah, but the lenses on smartphone are so small that you get a lot of distortion or this, and they need to correct it with software, and that's not photography anymore. Well, why don't you get your raw file and put it in Capture One or in Lightroom, and you go to the option to deactivate the automatic lens correction, and you will see what happens. If it's not corrected, you have some distortion. So obviously you also do some correction yourself with the picture you get out of your camera. So this is nonsense. This is really nonsense, all these things they're telling against smartphone, because your camera is probably doing exactly the same thing. Actually, from the second a camera started to have electronic, whether for autofocus, or I speak in the analog time, not in the digital, obviously. Digital, obviously there is some electronic, but when it was analog, you had electronics for the autofocus, electronic for measuring the light, spot metering, whatever kind of metering, all this, it was all calculated with electronic. So from that time, for you, it was great. You thought, oh yeah, now there's autofocus. That's great. And now you can measure in such way or whatever. And I get the perfect light, all this. It was great for you. But when the progress is made on a smartphone, that's not great anymore. So that's not fair, because on one hand, you're really happy of anything that gets you a better camera, but you look down on smartphone when they do exactly the same thing. So why are they working so hard on cameras and all this in smartphone? Basically because all the list of things I told you that a smartphone can do, they cannot get much better. You get a better alarm clock? I don't think so. A better agenda? Maybe, but not much. And better battery life? Yes, but basically the part that is really interesting and really moving buyers is photography and video. This is why they're working so hard on that. And actually, we have tomorrow's cameras already here. What do I mean? Smartphone cameras is the future. I'm not telling that people are going to stop using their DSLR or mirrorless camera to use smartphone. Although people who use compact camera are less and less using them, and they prefer to use a smartphone anyway. I'm not telling that. I'm telling that all these advanced features like night mode, they've put now on the UA P30 Pro and the latest iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. This is there, and this is here, and it will be implemented in your camera next year, 2 years time, 5 years time. All these things they're making on telephone, they will put them in your camera. Why are they doing it first in the smartphone? Wow, really easy. Every year millions of smartphones are being sold, and hundreds of thousands of cameras are being sold. And many people are changing telephone every year, so it's very good to develop new things there, because this market is really hot, it's selling, and developing this helps selling more smartphones. If they do new things on cameras, many people think twice or this, and also because the electronic in the cameras is the processors are really lousy compared to what they put in smartphones. So smartphones are really powerful to do many things to help make better image, better photography, better tools. and this will be implemented in the near future in cameras. I think it would be really great if cameras would be built as smartphone. What do I mean by this? Not the weight looks, not the weight handles, nothing. I speak about the philosophy. Right now I've got my smartphone and I want to do a picture or video, and in case of video I use Filmic Pro, an app, one of the leading app for video. Why? Because the native app doesn't convince me. I think Filmic Pro is better for what I do, so I use Filmic Pro. Same thing for photography, I usually use ProCam. I installed the app, actually use my app on my smartphone, so I can actually do the picture exactly as I would be manually as on my Olympus camera. I decide the speed, all this, so it's great. I think this should be done like this on cameras. Imagine you have your camera and you want to do sport photography, but the feature that your camera has doesn't convince you completely. But actually the hardware is there, it would work, but the way it's been programmed or calculated or developed doesn't give you everything. So it would be great to have a third-party app that would actually manage that part of sport photography, because they are the best at that, or portrait or whatever. So the future is probably that you actually get a camera and then you install the app that manages better depending on what you want to do. Right now, camera makers are not interested in this business. Why? Because they would sell less cameras. When actually they do something new, for them it's better to sell a new camera. But there would be a time where people won't buy a new camera even if they offer new things. Still, the market is getting slower and slower. So that day it will be interesting for camera makers to have an open platform so third party can create apps for this camera. And if they want to make money, well, they probably charge per each app that's installed. The maker, they will, okay, I charge some royalties so you actually install your apps on my camera. And this is probably the future. And this is great because it means the camera will be always better because there will be new apps. All this, obviously they will come out with new cameras from time to time, but it will be a different way of thinking. I think that if we really started to see photography as a whole and get our cousin or friend or brothers called smartphone into that big game in our mind, because I do but many people don't, we would see all the benefits photography is getting from smartphone technology. We're getting a lot of benefit, so we cannot look down on this. But many people look down on this. Why? Because they're insecure, they're not self-confident, they realize they're not as good as photographers they thought they were, or even they don't want to admit it. But really, honestly, if you're a good photographer, you don't give a damn what tool is using your neighbor. What you look is for result, and you like it or you don't like it, and that's it. And no one has said you have to use the same tool as he uses. He uses a smartphone, but maybe other cameras like yours, and you can use what you want, and everyone is free. What's important is photography, not the tool. The important is your ideas, your creativity, your knowledge. And don't forget, a good smartphone photographer is first of all, a good photographer. No smartphone will make the photography for you, same as your camera is not making picture by itself. And obviously you start thinking about, yeah, but this is all automatic. That's not true. You have the option to have your smartphone in fully automatic, but you also have the option to install a third-party app that lets you fine-tune, manually take the picture or the video exactly as I would do, or probably or very similar to what you would do on a normal camera. So people who say that, they just ignore the reality. Try a smartphone, installing an app, and see. You can decide where to focus, you can decide on exposure, you can decide on many things. Same thing as you do with the camera. Obviously there are some physical things that cannot be changed, as the lens size or sensor size, all this, because there's some space, physics, all this. So obviously a smartphone will not replace a larger camera. if you want to do exactly the same thing, you actually use the right tool for the job. So obviously I don't say a smartphone will do everything. The same thing as a reflex camera cannot do everything, a large format camera cannot do everything. But it's just one more tool, but we cannot look down on smartphone, honestly. So people who are actually nagging about smartphone, they're just ignorant, or they're actually people who are scared. They're scared of not being the photographer they were. I'm sorry about that, but if we want to be better photographers, we have to better our technique, and that's it. And we cannot tell that this guy makes better picture because he has a better tool. He makes better picture because he's a better photographer, period. Nothing else to say, and that's it. So please, open your mind. Look at what I've said. Try to investigate a bit more about smartphone photography. I don't say you have to do smartphone photography, but if you're nagging about it, try to understand what it is about and all the technology that photography is getting out of it, and the benefit for all of us. So I think if you see it this way, you will open your mind, and you will probably understand better what smartphone photography is about. And I repeat, it should be said smart device and not smartphone. Well, I hope you like this video. If you think it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. Yeah, if you have not done yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The small button down here, also a small bell. If you click on it, you'll get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, you can leave a comment below or send me an email to info@ericgibaud.com. And below I also put links of my gear on Amazon, and also links to other parts of my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye.